It always begins the same way. She looks at you, not for who you really are, but for who she thinks you could be. You've felt it, haven't you? That look in her eyes. You think it's admiration, maybe love, but look closer. There's a flicker there. Hope. Or maybe it's hunger. It's not you she sees. It's a possibility, a potential. You're not being seen. You're being sized up, measured, like a blank canvas, waiting for her to paint what she's been dreaming of. But here's the catch. The masterpiece she's painting. It's not really you. It never was. Carl Jung, he tried to warn us. Not with soft words or feel-good quotes, but with the sharp edge of someone who spent his life staring into the dark depths of the human soul. His entire life's work revolved around something he called the unconscious, the part of your mind that's working behind the scenes, silently shaping your decisions, desires, and beliefs without you even knowing it. And when it came to women, Jung uncovered something that most people still don't want to talk about. He found that women don't just fall for a man, they fall for the idea of a man, the fantasy, the projection, and the wild part. Most of the time, they're not even aware they're doing it. You might think she picked you, but really she picked the version of you that lives in her head. A version that's tailored, scripted, carefully built to fill a role in a story she's been telling herself for years. And if you stop fitting that story, she doesn't rewrite the story. She recasts the character. Jung had a name for this projection, the Animus. It's the inner masculine image every woman carries inside her. And when that Animus is underdeveloped or out of control, it takes over. It becomes a kind of tyrant. Suddenly, she's not seeing you at all. She's reacting to the version of you she invented. And that's when things get messy. An immature animus makes women chase the dangerous guys and reject the grounded ones. It makes them argue without reason, dominate without wisdom, moralize without ever looking in the mirror. Jung didn't sugarcoat it. He called it a kind of spiritual possession, a takeover from the inside. The woman stops operating from her own grounded awareness and starts speaking, acting, living from the fantasy man in her unconscious mind. And guys, we fall for it. Because no one taught us how to spot it. We confuse being wanted with being understood. We hear, "You're different," and we believe it. But most of the time, you're not different. You're just the latest name in a long list of men who've unknowingly auditioned for the same role. And when you stop performing the way she expects, when the illusion breaks, she doesn't grieve the real you. She mourns the character you stopped playing. And you're left standing there, confused, humiliated, thinking you did something wrong. But the truth, you didn't mess up. You just stopped being believable in a story that was never yours. Jung said, the only way out of this psychological role play is through something called individuation, a lifelong journey to become whole within yourself. Not whole through someone else. Not whole because someone loves you, but whole in your own right. And here's where it gets hard. Most men never start that journey. We've been raised to chase approval, to look for validation outside ourselves, to let women define our value. So we keep showing up on the same stage, playing the same part, hoping this time the audience won't get bored. But they always do. Individuation isn't sexy. It's not some weekend retreat or Instagram quote. It's raw. It's ugly. It forces you to dig into the parts of yourself you've hidden, the weak spots, the shame, the stuff you'd rather keep buried. And it asks you to stop blaming women for not seeing you and start seeing yourself. Because Jung knew something that's hard to swallow. You don't become a man by being chosen. You become a man when you choose yourself. Your worth doesn't come from her affection. It comes from your ability to stand alone, awake, responsible, grounded. A man who has faced his own unconscious can't be pulled into someone else's fantasy. He's not a character anymore. He's the author. Jung saw the greatest tragedy in modern men. Not that they're rejected, but that they're so willing to shapeshift just to be accepted. You think you're compromising. You think you're building a relationship. But what you're actually doing is erasing yourself. That's what Jung called self-betrayal. When a man ignores his own growth, his psychic development, he becomes a slave to the projections of others. He molds himself like soft clay into whatever a woman wants. And the longer he does it, the more he forgets who he was before he put on the mask. And women, they feel this, even if they can't explain it. The very things you think will make her love you, being nice, being predictable, being available, are the exact things that drain her attraction. Why? Because, as Jung taught, the feminine isn't drawn to comfort. It's drawn to mystery, to depth, to the man she can't fully define or control. When you show all your cards, when you have no boundaries, when you fold yourself to her every wish, you don't become lovable. You become forgettable. And that's the trap. You're terrified of being alone, more terrified than being fake. So you choose the role over the real. You choose performance over truth. And you wonder why it never works. But Jung said it plain. Until a man embraces solitude, he's not truly free. He called individuation a death before death. You have to let the false versions of yourself burn, the pleaser, the performer, the puppet, so something real can rise from the ashes. But here's the part no one likes to admit. It's lonely. Terrifyingly lonely. As you walk that path, you start to notice things. You see the roles people are playing. You see the lies they tell themselves to feel safe. You see the illusions they cling to just to make it through the day. And when you speak the truth, when you point it out, they'll mock you, call you arrogant, emotionless, too much. They'll say you are the problem, but you're not. You're just the mirror. And mirrors make people uncomfortable when they show something they don't want to see. Jung spent decades studying this, the shadow, the dark, hidden side of the psyche that most people would do anything to avoid. And women, they're often raised in a culture that praises them for avoiding it. They're told they're pure, intuitive, complete just the way they are. But Jung didn't buy it. He warned that the greatest danger to women was their unconscious animus, that voice inside that speaks with fake confidence, fake authority, and a fake sense of superiority. If a woman never confronts that voice, never integrates it, she becomes a prisoner of it. And she projects it onto every man she meets, blaming them for a war she's avoiding inside herself. And you think you're going to save her. You think you're the one. You think that if you just love her hard enough, if you perform well enough, she'll finally see you. But that's not how projection works. Projection is a thief. That's what Jung believed. It doesn't just distort your reality. It replaces it with something false, an illusion. And unless both people in the relationship wake up from that illusion, they're trapped in a cycle. The same heartbreak, the same blame game, the same emotional script, just with new actors. Each one pointing fingers at the other, never realizing they're both dancing with shadows. And here's the real twist, the one that most men miss. The woman who once looked at you like you were her hero. One day, she'll look at you like you're the villain. Not because you hurt her, not because you changed, but because you failed to keep playing the part she cast you in. She won't even realize it. Because to her unconscious mind, you're not you. You're a symbol, a tool, a character she needed to make her story make sense. Jung didn't frame this as anyone's fault. He called it inevitable. Psychological betrayal happens when neither person takes ownership of their inner world. You didn't lie to her. You didn't betray her. You just couldn't live up to the myth she created in her mind. A myth you never even knew you were auditioning for. She's not angry at the real you. She's angry at the character you failed to become. Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." And nowhere is that more obvious than in modern relationships. We call it falling in love. But what's really happening is two people dragging their childhood wounds, unmet needs, and buried fears into each other's arms, hoping to be rescued. You think it's romance. Jung called it possession. And like someone hypnotized, you keep walking into the same trap, telling yourself, this one's different. But deep down, you know it's not, because you haven't changed. You haven't asked the one question that could actually shift your reality. What if I'm the one creating this pattern? It's easier to blame her, to call women manipulative, shallow, or confusing. But Jung wouldn't let you off the hook that easy. He'd look you in the eye and ask, why did you choose her? Why did you let yourself be chosen by her? See, if you never confront your own inner world, your own feminine, emotional, wounded side, you'll always be vulnerable to hers. You won't know where your identity ends and her projection begins. You'll be a puppet, a volunteer in your own self-betrayal. Because here's the thing most men can't bear to admit. You chose to play the fool. You agreed to be the actor in her private fantasy. Not because you're weak, but because the idea of facing your own emptiness felt worse than being someone else's illusion. And right here, this is where most of you will want to stop listening. Because now, it's not about her anymore. Now it's about you. This is where the comfort ends and the responsibility begins. Jung didn't promise you easy answers. He didn't give you a shortcut or a confidence hack. What he offered was much harder. He handed you the task of self-confrontation, of sitting in the silence of your own mind. No distractions, no applause, no one to validate your existence. And in that silence, the illusions start to crack. You'll hear a voice, the voice that says, you're nothing without her. That voice will scream, it'll panic, it'll plead, because it knows the game is almost up. But Jung's work whispers something radical, something dangerous. The man who can stand alone, without validation, without applause, without needing to be needed, is finally free. Free from the projections, free from the performance, free from the constant pressure to be a version of himself that makes someone else feel safe. And here's the paradox that throws everyone off. When you get to that place, when you're no longer acting, no longer auditioning, no longer needing her, you actually become more attractive, more magnetic, not because you're doing anything, but because you're finally being real. You're not trying to impress anyone, you're just being. And that's when something strange starts to happen. You notice people reacting differently, not in ways you expect. Some will be intrigued, even drawn to you. But others, they'll get uncomfortable, they'll pull away. They might not even know why. It's because you've changed the rules of the game. You're no longer playing a role. You're not performing. You're not giving people the version of you that makes them feel secure. And that unsettles them, because most people want familiarity, not truth. They want comfort, not reality. And women, especially women who are still possessed by their fantasy of the perfect man, they'll accuse you of being cold, of being distant, too much in your head. But what they really mean is, they can't control you anymore. You've stepped off the stage. You've stopped reading from the script. You're no longer playing the character. You're just you. And that terrifies people who are still living in illusions. Jung once joked that the gods had become diseases. What used to be called divine possession, being taken over by a spirit or god, is now diagnosed as neurosis or psychological dysfunction. And make no mistake, a man chasing love through constant self-erasure is spiritually sick. You think it's romantic when you say, she's my everything, or I'd do anything for her. But Jung would shake his head. Because what you're calling love, it's actually avoidance. You're avoiding your soul. You're avoiding your own depth. You're handing over the responsibility of your meaning, your purpose, your identity to her. Because if she carries it, you don't have to. But here's the brutal truth. She can't carry it. She was never meant to. And when she realizes that you've made her responsible for your soul, she'll drop it. Not because she's cruel, but because no human being, man or woman, can carry that kind of weight. And when she drops it, you'll feel betrayed. But you shouldn't. You should thank her. Because that moment, that collapse of the fantasy, is the moment you finally meet the truth. The truth that the work of becoming a man was never hers to do. It was always yours. And now you have a choice. You can blame her, get bitter, join the crowd of angry men who point fingers, swear off women, build entire identities around resentment. Or you can do what Jung would challenge you to do. You can turn inward. You can start the journey. The lonely, terrifying, liberating path of individuation. Of becoming whole on your own terms. Of reclaiming the parts of yourself you gave away just to feel loved. Because the truth is, the woman you're searching for out there, she's just a reflection of the part of yourself you've abandoned. The feminine within you, the feeling, the intuition, the mystery. You've rejected it, projected it. And until you face that, every relationship will be a performance. Every connection will be a transaction. Every "I love you" will come with an invisible if. But when you do face it, when you reintegrate your own inner feminine, you stop chasing women. Not because you don't want them, but because you no longer need them to feel complete. You stop running after women. You stop performing for them. You stop trying to win their affection like it's a trophy for good behavior. Instead, you stand still. You're rooted. You're grounded. You're not cold. You're clear. Not indifferent, but undisturbed. You're not playing a role anymore. You're being who you actually are. And from that place, something powerful shifts. You stop attracting women who want a character, and you start attracting women who want the truth. And when you meet her, the one who isn't projecting, who isn't lost in illusion, you'll know. Because she won't ask you to perform. She won't try to rewrite your story. She won't fall in love with the fantasy of you. She'll just see you. And not as a goddess looking for worship, not as a broken girl looking for rescue, but as a human being who's done her own work, walked her own path, faced her own shadows. She won't flood you with declarations of eternal love. She won't act like you're the final missing piece of her life, because she's not looking for completion. She is complete. She doesn't want to be saved. She's already been through her fire. She's met her Animus, faced him, challenged him, integrated him. She's let go of the illusion that a man is supposed to make her whole. And that's why she won't need you to carry her soul. She'll meet you there, fully herself. No masks, no projections, no hidden agendas, just presence, just truth. And in that meeting, there's no clinging, no pretending, no performance. There's just honesty. And that kind of love, the one without illusion, that's the rarest kind. It's the most dangerous kind. Because it demands nothing, but it offers everything. It's not born from emptiness. It's born from freedom. The freedom to choose, the freedom to walk away, the freedom to stand side by side, not out of fear, not out of need, but out of truth. But let me be honest with you. Most men will never get there. Not because they're incapable, but because they quit too soon. They settle for the role. They settle for the fantasy. They settle for the temporary comfort of being someone they're not. Because facing who they truly are still feels unbearable. But if you have the courage to keep going, to keep walking, to keep stripping away every false identity you've worn just to be loved, you'll find yourself standing at the edge of something terrifying and beautiful. You'll find yourself. And when that happens, everything changes. Women will no longer be the mirror you use to feel like a man. They'll no longer be the judges of your worth. They'll no longer be the medicine for your insecurity. They'll become something else entirely. Partners, not prizes. Mirrors, not mothers. Allies, not saviors. And you'll love them, not because you're starving for connection, but because you choose to love. From strength, from fullness, from the deep, calm knowing of who you are. Carl Jung didn't leave behind a cheat code. He didn't give you a map or a step-by-step plan. He left you a warning that every man who refuses to face himself will become a slave to someone else's fantasy, especially the fantasies of women. But he also left you a challenge to walk the path of individuation, to stop blaming others for the roles you agreed to play, to stop outsourcing your self-worth, to stop waiting to be chosen like a child desperate for approval. Because the man who fully chooses himself, unapologetically, relentlessly, is a man no one can control. He can't be seduced by fantasy. He can't be manipulated by performance. He can't be reduced to a side character in someone else's story. He becomes the author of his own life. And if you've made it this far, if something in your gut is telling you this isn't just some YouTube video, it's a mirror, then don't ignore that voice. Don't scroll past this. Don't forget this the moment it ends. This message isn't just for you. It's for the next man who's still lost in the illusion, still pretending, still waiting to be seen. So help us spread it, like the video. Share it. Send it to a brother, a friend, a man who's trapped in a role he didn't even choose. Because truth doesn't go viral on its own. It spreads one man at a time. And every man who wakes up makes it easier for the next one to do the same. So here's your moment. Not to perform, not to pretend, but to stand and begin. Because the world doesn't need more obedient men. It needs more real ones. It needs you, fully alive, fully awake, and finally, free.